in this episode of Weaponized.
It was one of the film crew maybe that went, what the hell is that?
It's interesting to me that in Congress, when asked about our underwater capabilities of reconnaissance, that people would say closed session.
I believe it's the British Army who've been sent out there now to help patrol the perimeter. They've got police all around the area. Locals are totally spooked. Press is shut up about it in this country. No one's talking about it, despite the MOD being on an emergency footing.
What are you doing in London, Lou?
I don't know, just slumming.
You told the truth. I was like, Congress lied, and I'll talk to you more about that later, Lou, but you told the truth.
Secrets, cover-ups, and strange phenomena.
UFOs and ideas that challenge reality itself. All these mysteries, all this time. Are we ever going to get to the bottom of these?
My name is George Knapp. I dig into news stories that others can't or won't.
I'm Jeremy Corbell, and for some reason, people tell me things they probably shouldn't. And this is Weaponized.
This is Weaponized. My name is George Knapp. I'm joined by what looks like a WWE star, the Masked Avenger of some kind. Jeremy, is that you?
Okay, taking off all masks today, George. Do you remember when we used that mask?
I do. Yeah.
What were we doing? Who were we with? What was going on? I miss you.
Halloween, Hollywood Bowl, David Gilmour.
Oh, who's that? Who's David Gilmour?
Gilmour, he's the, in my opinion, the best rock guitarist in the world, and was one of the mainstays of Pink Floyd, and has continued to produce great music after that band split up, and it was a terrific event, wasn't it?
Yeah, I've been accused of being musically stunted, specifically by you, probably 11 years ago. So you've kind of had me on this journey of like learning about this thing called music, and, I was in a band, played the Whiskey, the Roxy. I was a horrible drummer. My band was called Table 20. So I know about music. I'm just like horrible at it, apparently. You took me to Pink Floyd. I believe it was on Halloween. That's factual. It was also, George, it was at the Hollywood Bowl outside with like amazing tickets. And we went with friends. Admit it. Who are your friends?
I'm not sure that anybody wants to be on record for that. We met up with Ben Schneider, our friend, the singer, songwriter, mainstay of Lord Huron, great band. We've been to see him a bunch of times, as often as we can. And Ben just happened to be in town, not on tour that night. And we reached out to see if he wanted to go with us. And damned if he didn't help out quite a bit. I mean, tickets are not cheap at the Hollywood Bowl, and we had some pretty decent ones. But Ben knew the guy who was sort of organizing that whole event, and he reached out to him, and suddenly we're in a box in the middle of the Hollywood Bowl, directly looking at David Gilmour. I mean, it was awesome.
Man, it was so awesome. Now, Ben Schneider is from Lord Huron. He's been a friend of yours. You played his music on Coast to Coast AM, which obviously you host a few times a month. But Ben has played the Hollywood Bowl, and so it was just so surreal. I kept turning to him. I was like, dude, what is it like to be on this side compared to that side? It was really cool. Also, Ben, we were with other people as well. And that was kind of fun for me because I don't get to hang out with some really good friends very often. And these other people were really good friends. And so one is Ryan Gall. So Ben was on Weaponized, and people should go watch that Lord Huron Weaponized episode. But Ryan Gall has never been. But Ryan Gall is the guy I've been in war zones with on the ground. I mean, I've known him for more than 20 years with my good friend Captain Brian, Ryan Gall. Ryan Gall is a music guy. He puts on this event, a kind of small event you might have heard of. He actually produces it in, what's the park in New York, George?
Central Park.
Central Park. And the festival's called like the Global Citizen Festival or something?
Something like that, yeah. A Global Citizen Alliance, maybe?
I don't know. It's like Global Citizen. I think it's a festival. And he's inviting me every year. They've done it. And we've done so much together in our lives that I've never gone. But you see, he has these huge artists like Bono and shit. So I gotta go one year. But that's Ryan Gall. And he also showed us a jacket, which I stole right off his back. Do you remember what it was, George?
No, I don't. No.
Okay, it said something from John Lennon. It was like a Beatles thing. Do you remember about that?
I do, but I don't remember which clip it is.
Something come together or something. I got the jacket over there, but anyway, so Ryan, because I hope he comes on Weaponized sometimes. He's the guy that I gave the little wooden flying saucer to, that holds teeth, that everybody was so confused about. It like actually it's for your like kids. It holds teeth. It has a magnetic top. Anyway, here's the point. Point is that we went with Ryan, and he's a great guy, and I hope he comes on Weaponized because he has an amazing story about kind of what he's gone through in his life. We also went with a guy named Brigham, Brigham. Brigham lives in Austin, and he's got this clinic where he like gives people like stem cells and shit. I went in there, I got alien DNA. It was fucking wild. So that was our crew. We were all wearing masks, and it was a blast.
One more note about Ben Schneider. So he is really well known and respected, and has a musician and singer, has had great success. Lord Huron has toured the world. It's touring the U.S., I think, real soon. In conjunction with Casey Musgraves, they perform with Sturgill Simpson. I mean, he's got a lot of fans and well known. He sent me a note. I hope I'm not violating a confidence, but a couple of days ago, he says, I go in to get my hair cut, and this barber goes, I saw you on Weaponized. So here's this famous guy who was known all over the world, and that's the guy cutting his hair saw him on Weaponized, which, I mean, I don't know if that's a humbling experience, something good or bad or what.
I think it's so cool. Barbers, man, they're the shamans of the modern day world. People are going to see some things about barbers soon visually, which is neat. I'll tell you about that later, but not today. So Ben Schneider, he sees him on Weaponized. Let me tell you something, man. This is to everybody watching. So all the people that listen or watch to Weaponized, man, thank you so fucking much. I mean, this is like so cool to know that people are interested in this. We're going to talk about UFOs today, big time. We're going to talk about UFOs. But I just want you to understand that it means so much to me that this show is growing. People are listening. They're paying attention. And it's about to get really exciting. And I say that with absolute knowledge that our show, as we move into the new year and continue, I hope will continue to do what I want it to do, which is give me an excuse to hang out with my friend George Knapp and study UFOs.
Well, it's a good time to be doing both of those things because there's a heck of a lot going on.
Yes, sir.
Both on my end and in UFO world, UAP, call it whatever you want. I mean, good gosh, there is a tremendous amount of news breaking on this subject, and all over the world. And I think we're a little bit part of pushing that ball down the field. But my gosh, I know I see it on social media, and we've talked about it before. I see it all the time. People complaining that, gosh darn it, I'm so tired of waiting for the truth to come out. Why doesn't somebody bring the alien bodies here to my front door? Because I've been on Twitter for 6 months now, and I haven't seen any aliens, and I haven't seen the truth come out of Congress or the media or from Weaponized or anywhere. It's just not happening, and I'm growing impatient. I understand that impatience. I am frustrated as well, and I'd like to see some of the same things those people would like to see, and I'd like to see them now. But the reality is the progress that has been made in the past few years is incredible. It's extraordinary. It's nothing like the limited progress that was made the preceding 50 years or so, and so much interest in Congress, in mainstream media, academics, the general public. I mean, it's peaks and valleys over the decades for the UFO subject. We're peaking right now, and I think it's still going to be going up for a while. And, we can jump into a couple of things that I think the public wants to hear from us in this episode. But first and foremost, what happened in Congress? I leave you alone for 5 minutes, and you get into trouble in the halls of Congress. You're threatening people. I've heard all the stories. I've read it. It's on X. It must be true. So I was not able to go with you on this trip. I wish I could have been there, but I have a day job too at KLAS TV.
No.
So it was November. It's a sweeps period. I was kind of busy with stories. I did cover it. I did write some stories about the hearing itself on the day it happened, but was not able to go there. So give me your sense. Was that a good event? Was it a positive overall experience? Because it really felt like there were some strange things going down behind the scenes.
Okay, well, there's a lot to, as they say, unpack there. I'm not letting you get away with anything, so we're going to start at the beginning. So you, first of all, allowed me. You leave me alone. You allow me. What do you expect to fucking happen? You think that like I'm just like not a weirdo? I'm not like a fighter? Like I'm not.
I know the answers to all of those. Yeah, I know the.
God, look, man, I really wish, George. We're going to take our time with this episode. I want to be thorough. I really wish you had been there, but sometimes you have to divide and conquer. But let's go back to like sweeps. What does sweeps mean? Like people don't know what that means. So you were busy with a job? Is that why you weren't in Congress? What was going on? What's sweeps? What do you mean sweeps?
I am still the chief investigative reporter at KLAS TV. And although I've been traveling a lot over the past year and a half or so and haven't always been on the air there, they keep the door open for me and are welcoming whenever I'm able to put together investigative pieces for them. I did a couple of fun stories, including UFO coverage regarding the congressional hearing, but some other mob-related pieces. Sweeps they're not as important as they used to be. It was 4 months in a year when TV rating services pay special attention to how many viewers you got, and based on the results from those periods, it sets your advertising rates for the rest of the year. So, TV stations, news departments generally put a lot of attention and a lot of good stories that they think will grab listeners and viewers during those periods. So they often have relied on me over the decades to come up with good stuff during sweeps periods.
So with your job at KLAS TV, I mean, it's like 40 years or something. So there you are. And one time a year, because you've told me this over like the last 11 years, like I'm in sweeps. So you have to pump out, do your best work, kind of like hit deadlines and do more stories than normal. That's what it is.
Yeah, kind of like that. It's 4 months a year it used to be we put most of our energy into preparing something. These days we sort of think of ourselves as being in sweeps all the time. You want to fight every night for the viewers out there against your competitors in the media marketplace. And so I'm not a full-time reporter with KLS anymore. I can't, but they're anxious and welcome any kind of input and stories that I want to produce for them. And I love it. I love that place and it's like a family and they trust me and I trust and appreciate them. So I was happy to jump back into doing some stories for KLAS for this November.
And they trust you because you broke all these stories on the mob, on UFOs. You took that shit seriously before other people, and you've been accurate. And when you haven't, you've told people when you've learned new information. So when you say they trust you, you mean KLAS for 40 years as you've been working there. I'm trying to drive a point home here, but also I'm actually just curious about the answer. Like when you say they trust you, even the new people coming in, it's because they know that you do the best work you can. Is that right?
Yeah, you try hard. You're honest in what you report. You're not trying to slant things. Although I do have put my permanent stamp on sort of the stories that I investigate, and I share with people what I think about it. I mean, in terms of how I think whichever the issue is involved, how things fall based on what I've learned. I try not to editorialize too much in that role, but I dig hard on a wide variety of stories, and it's really a rewarding kind of a profession. So yeah, they trust my judgment. They know that if, for example, humans make mistakes, I've made some over the years, and it's important to correct them as soon as you can.
Really? For a journalist to correct a mistake is important?
Yeah, if you make an error, you come right back on the air as quickly as you can on the same newscast and correct it.
Oh.
And, I think there are probably professionals in the business who feel like correcting an error damages your credibility. I think the opposite is true. When you tell them, hey, look, we messed up. Here's how we're fixing it. That builds trust and credibility, in my view.
Yeah, man. Well, look, observations that maybe some people might not have because I've been in a privileged position of, being at a news desk at your station and stacking papers. You can stack the papers, kid. That was when we first met, right? Really funny. There's a little like gif about it where I'm like in other news and I'm stacking papers at KLAS. You snuck me in there before you knew I was a wild man that would go to Congress and raise hell. Right?
Oh, I know.
Okay, good. But what I noticed is that when I went in with you all those times to KLAS, which still baffles me that you allow me to be seen in your presence, but check it out. What I noticed is that when you're trying to get out of that and you're like, dude, I have a life. I have a cat that is so obsessed with Harry Reid documents that he climbs in the box. Like, you have big things going on in your life. So when that shit happens, what I noticed is you keep telling me you're trying to pull out. However, they kept this huge corner office with glass. I filmed it in numerous of my films. And they keep it there like this relic, like, oh shit, he might come back and do another story. Are they trying to like guilt you into continuing to report for KLAS? Tell me what's going on.
No, they know I'm a workaholic and I love my job there. And I have the best job at the best news organization in the best news city in America. There aren't 10 people in journalism that have a better job than I do. I'm not there all the time, but I'm there as often as I can. And until they change the locks and don't let me in, I'm going to continue to be there, I hope.
I got more questions for you, so hold on, let's bang through them real quick. So look, man, I just see like a lot of times you're like, I'm going to stop doing that. Look, I'm getting older, man. I don't want to do that. But somehow, man, you keep getting pulled in and you keep doing these stories. And, it's amazing to me, man. I know, we are friends and that's the primary basis of our relationship. But as people working together, as journalists working together, I have seen over the years that you get this like look in your eye. You start sending crazy texts to people. You're like, fuck this. You're like, forget this bullshit, these liars, these people. And you're like, I'm going to do a story. So you go in and you do a story. And I watch them. And what I noticed is that when I've been in your newsroom, your news area, it's like you've known all these people for a long time. But all of a sudden, dude's got a Netflix show and they're taking selfies with you. What the fuck is that about?
That's true. We've made allusions to it a couple of times as we've done podcast episodes over the past year or so. But this Netflix project is finally out of the can, from behind the curtain.
Yeah,
I think some producers, Angus James and Jake Lawfer, had approached me starting in 2022, saying that Netflix itself wanted to produce its own UFO series to take a run at it, and they wanted me to helmet, sort of be the focal point of it. And I eventually said yes. We started shooting, I think, in July of 2023, and they estimated we might need 30 days to film the whole 6-episode series for 1 year. 14 months later, we finished shooting it. There were trips to DC with you. We visited many parts of Brazil and Mexico. We were in Oregon, Washington, Northern and Southern California, Montana, Utah, Colorado, Arizona, Texas, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Massachusetts. I mean, we went all over the place and put together the series. And we teased it. We showed the teaser on Weaponized a month or so ago, and then
right when you got it, and then we play it. It was so cool. We're in that room, and Michael, our Wizard of Oz for Weaponized, our creative producer, he was in that shot too, which was cool. But George, here's my point. I'm going to answer you about Congress. We'll talk about that. Let's talk about drones. Let's talk about Omaha. Let's talk about everything. But right now, I got to say this. I watched your Netflix show. You don't tell me shit, apparently. I learned so much from watching it. Like, legitimately, I watched it and was like, he never told me that. Or was I just like not listening? One thing really stuck out. We're going to have a couple guests today for Weaponized. But one thing really stuck out. Now, there's part of my mind that is like super skeptical. And I'm like telling you all the ways that I think something could be faked. And then I see this guy. And this guy's name is Rory. But I don't know the guy. You know the guy. So I'm watching this like everybody else on Netflix. And I'm like, that's a motherfucking UFO. That's a UFO. That is unidentified, and it went in the water, right? and so I asked you, I was like, look, man, what's up with that? Like, what happened that night? And and you took no offense, but I grilled you. I'm like, what if the government put something up? What if the camera crew put something up? I was like, that was so weird. I'm really excited. You told me you have a friend, and he's willing to come on with us. So let's get back to Congress. Let's get back to drones. Let's get back to current news. We'll have a special guest for that. Right now, there's a guy in your Netflix show. His name is Rory. And I don't know anything about him, but I do know he was there that night. And I also know that you gave me the clip and you're like, what the fuck is this? And I cut this little thing to try to show, like, I don't know, let me like cut something and figure it out. So I want to know about the USO, the apparent USO, unidentified submerged object, seeing something go from in the sky into the water, which did happen. But what is it? Who made it occur? That's your boy. So tell me about Rory and let's bring him in and we'll get back to everything else.
So one of the goals that we outlined in the beginning of our conversations about the Netflix series, what we might do and try to accomplish during the adventure, during the investigation, and the series is called Investigation Alien, by the way, for people who haven't seen it, was to take a look at the area off the Southern California coast, Channel Islands, Catalina, areas that have been UFO, USO hotspots for a long time. People will recall the 2004 Tic Tac incident, which is one of the most significant UFO cases of all time because of who documented it, the U.S. Navy. The Nimitz carrier group was there doing exercises, getting ready to go to the Middle East, and they started seeing these objects, just brief glimpses of them coming from 80,000 feet down to sea level, and then they lose track of them. And finally, they said David Fravor, our friend, former guest here on Weaponized, sent him after to go check this thing out, and we know the story about the Tic Tac. What is it about that area, that section of the ocean, that seems to attract so many unknown aircraft, objects that come in and out of the water, allegedly? Well, we found a guy who would take a crew, take a big boat out there to look for it. He is an underwater archeologist. And the question is there something on the bottom of the ocean out in that area that would indicate that somebody is down there for a particular reason, that there is maybe a base, a structure, some kind of hidden facility down there that these transmedium craft that are allegedly seen there have been accessing? Why do people see so much? So Rory Kremer is an underwater archaeologist. We're going to hear from him in just a moment, but he was very anxious to take this on because he does that kind of work. And he got a bunch of special equipment that he can tell us about to look down on the bottom of the ocean. And he took a bunch of cameras as well, stationed around this boat. And he wasn't necessarily there to record objects or images or strange stuff in the sky. He was looking down in the water, but he captured something, and it really took everyone by surprise. It is legit. It was not faked. What it is well, it's a transmedium vehicle. It's in the sky and it goes in the water. And Rory and his team are the ones that captured it. It's astonishing footage. We've heard about these kind of things happening for a long time. We've heard there is footage, recordings, film, gun cameras of these things happening, but now we see one. And maybe Rory can join us now. Rory, welcome to Weaponized, man. We're so glad to talk to you.
Hey, guys. Nice to see you.
Yeah, man. Well, Weaponized. Yeah.
Jump into it. I know you got some questions about his background. You want to hear some of that part first?
Yeah, absolutely. So listen, Roy, I got a bunch of questions about background, and I also want to ask you the obvious questions about the event series, like after you describe it. So just about your background, like I saw you like everybody else. George doesn't tell me shit. He hides everything from me. All of a sudden I see you on there and I'm watching it. I'm trying to assess, is this guy trustworthy? This guy, Rory, like that's what everybody's thinking. Who's this guy? What is he talking about? What's his background? Is he a liar? What's going on? Like skeptical people. So just tell me real quick, like, kind of what is your background? Like how did you find yourself there with George? Like not only going underwater, but like, on this documentary, like who are you, dude?
Well, I'm glad that George holds his cards close to his vest. That's a good thing. Thank you, George. I was raised on a ranch in Montana and didn't want to look at the ass end of a cow for my whole life. So I joined the Coast Guard when I was 17 years old and went out and saw the ocean and just fell in love with it. After the Coast Guard, I worked in LA for a while, and then I started moving boats around and working on boats, and went back home again when I was 31 years old and decided to do my bachelor's at University of Montana, studied anthropology and then archaeology at Purdue, and came back out to the ocean. And I've been working in California and Pacific Rim archaeology for over 20 years now. And I've worked Samoa, Tinian, Northern Marianas Islands, Hawaii for quite a few years, California coastal for quite a few years, as well as Nevada, Arizona, Mexico, Costa Rica, and Guatemala. I've got a lot of terrestrial archaeology under my belt. But the reason I got a hold of George was stuff that I saw in the ocean. And I got a hold of him because of a delivery. I was bringing a boat over from Hawaii and
Tough job, huh, Jeremy? Tough job.
Actually, being on sea is a tough job. I mean, you got to have grit to do that. The ocean is a crazy place. So you're telling me you're highly educated on all this shit, qualified, but you're also telling me you got grit, because it is hard actually to be on boats. I mean, you went to Hawaii and all the fun stuff, but it is, right? It is hard when you're working on boats.
Oh, when I'm bringing boats from Hawaii, the main reason that I get a lot of those, and I've done probably close to 50 of them, both with crew that I've hired and by myself. It's really easy to sail to Hawaii. Bringing a boat back is a pain in the ass. You've got to sail way north to get south. Like this boat I was delivering in Marina Del Rey, and it was later in the year, and I had to go up to latitude 41, which is almost parallel with like Portland, and to bring the boat to Marina Del Rey. So I brought it up to 41 and then started coming back to the coast. It's just the way the currents of the weather go. And so I brought it down. My first place I hit was Morro Bay, just because you can see that rock way far out in the sea, about 26 miles. You see the rock, and after 30 days at sea by yourself, it's kind of nice to see land. And yeah, but I saw something 3/4 of the way through from Hawaii to the west coast of the mainland, and it spooked me. And I got a hold of George and wanted to talk to him about it. I figured he was the man.
Just tell me what you saw.
I saw this. It was nighttime, and I had the boat on auto helm. It was just sailing itself perfect. It was just a really nice night. Just a beautiful night. The boat's, no engine going. Just had the radar going so that I could see if there were anything across my path. And just sitting out there having a drink after dinner, and all of a sudden the ocean started getting right underneath of me. Now I know that when the sun deflects on the other side of the planet, it can sometimes deflect underneath of you, and I've seen that twice. And that's a weird thing to see but its light is coming sideways underneath your boat. This was coming from directly underneath of me, and it kept getting brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter. And the damn thing popped up out. It was a thing. It popped up out of the water, probably, I would guess, a mile from me, something like that. And it was brighter now. It was bright as daylight.
I want to really understand it. So you're saying that, like, how far out were you from land?
Oh, I'd been at sea for probably 20 days. I think I was about 1,600 miles off of. I left Alawai Marina in Honolulu, and so I was 1,600 offshore from them, and I probably had about another 900 miles left to go to get to the coast. So I was almost as far as you can be on the planet from being to another piece of land.
Okay, so walk me through this. So you, if I'm understanding, you are completely isolated in the middle of the ocean, no land in sight, hundreds of miles from the closest known land mass, and there's a light that starts illuminating from under your boat, not at an angle like the sun reflecting some weird thing, and you're watching it about a mile away from your boat, something like that.
No, actually, it was light underneath of my boat. The light that was coming off this thing was diffusing, and it was, as it came up, it got wider and wider. Its area of diffusion of the light.
How big?
I want to say the thing was probably, thinking back on it, 200 to 300 feet in length. It was big. It was huge. but it was quiet. I couldn't see it. I mean, I couldn't hear it. And it came up out of the water and hung there for a second and then went off in some weird angle, not the same angle it was bringing itself up out of the water from.
Okay,
Again, quiet.
Okay.
It was spherical.
Okay, hold on. Quiet after it gets out of the water, you'd expect to hear sound, but let's start with illuminating under the water. What color was that light?
Green. Kind of greenish yellowish, and it was really dim at first, so I thought maybe it was just phosphorescence. Because sometimes when you're on a boat, the phosphorescence will get heavier in some areas than they are in others. So you'll come through an area where there's little bio creatures that when you hit them with the boat, it causes phosphorescence. If you've been out on the sea, you'll see a trail of them behind a boat on the ocean. Well, sometimes they'll be so bright that you hit them with the hull and they splash off. And well, that wasn't this. This was coming from underneath the water. I mean, well underneath the water. Like, okay.
And when you say green, would the color of the water, if it was a white light, cause it to look green?
No, the light when it eventually came up out of the water was kind of a yellowish, but it looked green. I believe that's just from what was in the water. The Pacific Ocean is relatively clean when you're out a distance from shore, but you've got stuff in there that changes the color.
Okay, so you see this thing come out of the water. Do you have binoculars, or is it just through your optic? Okay.
No, just I didn't know what the hell it was. I didn't think to grab binoculars. I didn't think to grab a camera. I was just like, holy shit, what is that? I went on defensive mode.
Yeah. Okay, so the thing comes up out of the water, no sound. Did you see like water dripping off of it? You said it was spherical shape, about 200 feet.
I was looking at it and I couldn't see. I mean, it was bright as heck. It was really, really bright and almost like a blinding yellow light. I didn't see water coming off of it. I saw water down below that was white capped. It was like, you could see a disturbance. Something had come out of the water. There was a white cap that went out. But the thing came up and it went up. I guess it probably went up a little higher than I was on the boat. So probably 50 to 100 feet out of the water, and then just hung there for, it felt like forever, but it was only 2 or 3 seconds.
Okay. So hold on. Is it fair to say that you're in the middle of the ocean and that somebody has a technology that is spherical and somehow lifts out of the water and it's self-luminous, and then it fucking hovers before it leaves? Like, this is technology. Like, somebody in the middle of the ocean has technology that's underwater that all of a sudden can do this. Is that fair to say?
It's almost like its viscosity didn't carry water with it. It was able to push the water away from itself. So it didn't carry water with it. Water was no thing to it.
I guess what I'm asking is, like, that's fascinating. But what I'm asking is just bottom line. You saw a vehicle or a craft or something come out of the water in the middle of nowhere. It was self-luminous, came up, it was spherical in shape, about 200 feet, and it hovered and then shot off. Like, somebody has technology that is under the water that can do this. Is that your experience?
Yeah, it wasn't a natural thing. It wasn't a flying whale or any fucking thing like that. It was a built thing. Somebody built this. And it was under control by somebody who knew what they were doing. And it almost, even at that time, when it came out of the water and hung there for a second, my brain was telling me that thing's changing from one atmosphere to another and it's having to equalize. And that's what it did. It like got into the air, hung there for 2-3 seconds, and then poof, off in a different direction. And I was able to watch it for 8 or 10 seconds, and it just kept going straight till it was out of sight.
And you're completely alone. Did you like just fucking, what did you grab the whiskey? What there you
go. I was trying to, actually I did try to remember how many rum shots I'd had that day, but I think I'd only had like 2. And I had no other intoxicants with me. I was it was just weird. And I took my harness out real quick and put it on and strapped it to the boat because I'd been a little slack about running my harness because we'd had such, it had been such nice weather. But I put my harness and tether on so I didn't fall off the boat that night. But it was so odd. I'd never seen anything like it. I've seen submarines come out of the water before, up in in Seattle, Tacoma area where they used to just breach and you see them before you see them and hear them before you see the light at night.
Like U.S. submarines?
Yeah, the Tritons. They used to play with them a lot there until there were some Japanese tourists that got killed on a boat over in Japan that got hit by a sub doing that. So they kind of backed out of doing that.
Yeah, the silent force. This is the first time I'm hearing this, so I'm kind of shocked right now, but I knew that there's a reason why George and you might have been talking. But let me just ask you, we've determined that somewhere in the middle of the ocean, somebody has a machine that they built that is transmedium and it's spherical, so it doesn't have like rotors, tails, exhaust, all that stuff. It's self-luminous. It comes up. It's high technology. I mean, I really hope it's the United States of America. But if I asked you, could you pinpoint exactly where this was on the exact date? Is that information that you could relay to me and George in private?
I could probably not pinpoint it GPS wise, but I could give you a variable because I only travel on that boat. I probably traveled an average of 115 nautical miles a day. So I could get ballpark close within probably 50 to 100 miles.
Oh, dude, that's wild. Okay, because I think this is so
I've never been out there. I've gone back since then, and I've done a little homework on this. I didn't tell a bunch of people, but I went back and looked at, where I was track-wise and what historically has been recorded. And there's some military stuff that was recorded during Vietnam, Korea, when ships would go across that area, coming out of Bremerton and out of California, going across that area, and they have sightings all the time.
Right. I've heard that all the time. But like, why, Rory? So why did you not tell everybody after this? Why do you go and call Batman and tell George Knapp? Why didn't you just fucking tell everybody?
Because I had to go to work. I work sometimes for the government, and I work for people who are I didn't want to be a nut. And at the time,
how do you work for the government?
It's a deep state operative, Jeremy. Come on.
I want to know, what do you mean you work for the government? What do you mean?
I've done a lot of projects as a field archaeologist and as a project leader on different military bases and naval bases, and I guess I talked about it now. It's not secret, but I used to work for a company. We place sonobuoys around the Channel Islands and test them. And sonobuoys are things that they drop. They'd have a jet fly over us, and they'd drop these things, and then we'd have the technicians on board who would be testing them, making sure which ones work and which ones don't. And, we get on there and listen to what the sonobuoys were picking up. They were testing them there, and they were basically trying to, that's the story we got. They were trying to figure out what sonobuoy worked the best. And so we had people from different companies that came and tested their sonobuoys out on this boat.
Now, it is a sensor system. It's a sensor system that...
It has sound-based sensors. Yeah, it's a sound-based sensor system that will... it comes out in a long tube, and the jet flies over and it drops, and then we bring the big boat around and go pick them up, and during the time between when it's dropped and when we pick them up, it's pinging, and it's giving them soundings, and it's listening to the bottom of the ocean. It's listening to what's there.
What part of the government was doing that?
DOD.
Right. Okay. Here's the deal. Why is the DOD putting sonic buoys around the Channel Islands? What year was this?
Most recent year was probably 2015, 2016, something like that.
That you know of. So my question...
I was working on the boat.
Yeah. So my question is this. It's interesting to me that in Congress, when asked about our underwater capabilities of reconnaissance, that people would say closed session. Obviously, there's a secret, a national security, Defense Department, DOD secret about our capabilities underwater to detect. To detect what? Okay, maybe Russian submarines or something like that. I get that. But there might be more to it. So, George, I just want that to be on our radar.
Two momentary diversions from this story, and we'll circle back around it. In this Netflix series, the 6-part series, Investigation Alien, we have another case that is reminiscent of what Rory has just described there, off of Tampico, Mexico. These two fishermen, brothers, go way out into the ocean. They're fishing, and underneath them is this huge, roundish white light that appears out of nowhere, and it comes under their boat, and it runs into the rope that's hanging on their anchor. It's pulling it forward, and they were in danger of being pulled under the front of their boat, being pulled underwater, so they went and cut the rope. Rory, what do you think about that story when you watch that?
That's pretty wild. That was really wild. First off, I'm wondering why they're not running chain for an anchor line, but
thank God they weren't, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that would scare the hell out of me if I was starting to go if my bow was starting to submarine under the water and I was on anchor. That's pretty spooky.
My second diversion is Rory's has had other experiences with strange phenomena back in Montana, correct? You were there when a lot of weird stuff was happening.
There was. We've got missile bases on our ranch, on our family property, and there was a period in the 70s when there was 60s and 70s where there was a lot of disturbance, and you'd see wild stuff in the sky. You still go home and see wild stuff flying around.
Cattle mutilations.
Oh yeah, we had cattle mutilations and sheep mutilations all around us during that period of time in the 70s. That was strange.
And you saw these mutilations. So not many people have like missile silos or whatever you called them, like on their property. I don't even know how that works.
They're ICBMs. They're Minuteman missiles, and like the one that's by our house. My great grandfather did not want it on the property, but the Air Force came in and they did eminent domain on this corner of one of our fields, and he met them at the door. I understand every time they'd come to the door, he met them with a shotgun. He was not happy, but they did eminent domain on that corner. And still to this day, that missile base is there. It's an ICBM Minuteman missile.
Damn,
they're Minuteman threes now.
Yeah. I mean, it's like if you weren't like born into the position to be curious about the UFO thing, I mean, it's insane to me. So whatever, man, you got to write a book. Like seeing you on Netflix, I wanted to like grill you to see your credibility, because I looked at that video and I was like, George, everybody's going to try to mess with you, man. They're going to try to trap you. We're giving fake information all the time. What's going on? So let's jump into that. Rory, great to meet you. Now, you're on a boat. I resent you the cut that I made when George gave me the stuff. You watched it last night or something like that, right after the SpaceX launch, I think. So let me just ask you this, man, or George, maybe you should take lead on this. It's your show.
Yeah, I'll do it this way. Rory, could you share with us what Angus and Rick and Jake, the producers, what they assigned you to do? What was the mission of you and that crew on that boat that you leased?
They asked me about seeing underwater things, or things that came out of the water that were connected to UAPs, or as we used to call them, UFOs. And the ocean, and they asked where I would want to go, and I told them several places that I think would be hot areas, just because of military work and work that I've done in the areas, and archaeology that I've done, and sailing and being on boats basically in the area off the coast. And so I got shot down on the first two places because budget wasn't big enough, but finally they took number 3. Well, I put together the gear, and, they were telling me what they wanted, and I tried to fit the gear and the people to fulfill what their needs were. They wanted to see any anomalies that were intelligently designed, and in the areas, but something that, we can't explain, that it made no sense to have it there.
But primarily, you're looking down at the bottom of the ocean, and you're taking special gear, puts down there that might explain why these things keep coming in and out of the water, right? That's the focus.
generally, when you're doing archaeology here, you're looking at prehistoric peoples, the natives that lived here for, anywhere from 15 to 20,000, maybe even longer years ago. And probably 95% of coastal archaeology, California archaeology is underwater, because 10,000 years ago, you could almost walk to the Channel Islands. So it's quite often that you will be doing underwater archaeology surveys, and you will find fire rings, you'll find shelters, you'll find burials. That's not what they wanted to see. They wanted to find out if there was anything down in this area that I went to that didn't fit that. Why would it be there? And I knew of a couple places, and we went out and looked at 1, 2 places, 3 places, and off of Santa Rosa Island they were interesting. They were pretty cool. And
maybe we can play the video, and Rory can sort of give us a play-by-play as we roll through this. This is a version much longer than what we see in the Netflix series, but we were given permission to show as much of it as we want. So can we?
Yeah, and this one came up right as I was pulling the ROV. I had a remote operated vehicle underwater, and I was pulling it up. So I was really busy getting that thing out of the water, because they're kind of expensive and you don't want to lose them. And I was getting it and its cable up, and all of a sudden the crew's like, holy shit, what's that up there? And I was able to look at it for a second, but I needed to get this thing out of the water. But I was keeping an eye on it, and then it was strange. It was strange.
What I noticed in the longer footage is that you're just like talking on the boat, and all of a sudden somebody says, and you go, whoa, and you look over and you see it. Was that the first time you saw it in that clip?
No, the first time I was sitting in a chair just like this, and I was pulling the ROV cable out of the water at the stern of the boat, and I had Anthony Reynolds, who's he's got the dive shop in San Luis Obispo. He's been a friend for 40 years almost. He was helping me, and his daughter was helping me get the ROV and cable out. And one of them, I think it was Anthony's son, it was one of the film crew maybe, that went, what the hell is that? And that's when I looked, and they're like, Rory, come over here. And I said, I can't come over there right now, because I had to get this thing up. Otherwise, we do tens of thousands of dollars for it. So we're getting it up out of the water. And then when you saw me probably on the net, I haven't watched all the Netflix thing yet. But I think that when you saw me, I already had the ROV out of the water, had the cable gathered, and I was standing then looking at what they were pointing at, and just this thing popped up again. And when I saw it, when it popped up again, it was freaking 100, 200, well, probably 150, 200 yards from the boat. It was close. And I actually was looking around thinking, if this thing's a sailboat coming at us, we're going to get smacked, because it looked like it was on a dead reckoning heading towards us. And then the next thing you know, it's 10 miles away. Okay, so that's the UAV or ROV video. That's some of the stuff that I shot with the ROV. And that's bringing it up, I believe. Yeah, bringing it up. And so now that's down, still in the water. That is off of Santa Rosa Island. And there we are. Oh, the cameraman was looking at me, and now he's got the camera pointed at the UAP that they were talking about behind my back, and I was able to glance over every once in a while and look at it. And I got the ROV up then, and during this time, you can see it darting around, popping around. This is a good cameraman, so that's movement of the unit itself. He's on steady cam. We got to reel that thing if we can. While the boat's moving, it kind of adjusts. Now it disappears. And that is the point when I got the ROV out of the water, and I was able to then stand up, and I was like, well, shit, it's gone. I missed it. I just got to see a glance of it while I was pulling the ROV up. Now, I think I talked on this.
You're looking at the cameraman, and then suddenly the thing is back there behind you again.
Yeah, it popped up again. There it was again. And then it got way too close. I'm used to running posts, so I don't like it when lights get way close. Because it means something hard is really near you. And so we're all just watching, and we're all going, holy shit, what is that?
I had asked you to sort of figure out where you were, and you sent me charts. I was just trying to see if maybe there's an island or a light or another boat or something like that.
We were on anchor right next to Santa Rosa Island. Right at the south end of Santa Rosa Island. That's the only piece of land that is near there.
So after this comes back again, you guys, it's late at night. Most of the crew goes down, they go to sleep, and then the cameras keep rolling, correct?
Right. We set up cameras for the whole night, and we had one guy on night watch, of course. He wasn't part of the crew. He was part of the boat crew. He had nothing to do with the cameras. He didn't know anything about the cameras other than they were out there.
It almost looks like it's there to perform for the camera.
Way up, and you can see the movement. That's the movement of the bow of the boat, because we're on a stern anchor there, and so the bow of the boat. It's a pretty calm night. It's moving up and down, but this thing is making a gradual movement down to the water, and it's like it's showing off. It's not trying to hide. It's not in a hurry.
It's teasing you. And you can see the reflection it's a real light. It's reflecting off the ocean. It's right down there. Is it going to go in? And boom, there it's in the water.
And you can see the reflection in the water. I've never seen anything like that. It was unbelievable. And I've talked to people since who work ROVs, who work these sensor equipment, things like that, and they've never seen anything like that either.
Tell by the color of the water. Oh, this is a light.
It's getting deeper too.
Under the ocean. Yeah.
Yeah, you can see it getting deeper as it goes down. It's not just sitting on the surface and there's swell between you and whatever it is. That thing's in the water and it's diving.
And it's going deeper, and it reminds me of the green, because it does look green when it goes into the water, and that's because it's like a yellow light, and then the color of the water, like you described earlier. So this thing is in the water.
The bioluminescence of it, yeah.
And what makes you say it goes deeper?
Well, you can see it. It fades. It doesn't come back up out of the water there. It's equalizing to its surrounding, I have a feeling. And it submerges. You can see it go down into the water until the water, the darkness of the water, consistency of the water envelops it.
Let me ask some stupid questions, okay? So, first of all, before we even talk about how this could be faked, what I want to know is, what do we have that can be luminous, that can be outside of the water, and then can submerge and go deeper into the water? Like, what do you guys know of any technologies that are like readily available just from people that want to fake stuff, that you can have a light on something and it can go into the water and then go deeper? Like, I don't know, like DJI drones can't do that. So do you guys know anything that can do that?
I've thought of it since then, and the only thing that I could think of is it would cost you over $100,000 to stage something like that. And it could be, and what I'm talking about is like an A-prop helicopter drone that would be holding onto an underwater drone. Because I don't know of anybody that makes anything that does both, that do both medium.
What about size? Like, do you have any idea from the distance of the light and like what size this thing would have had to have been? Is it the size of a coin, or would it be the size of like a car? Like, do you have any idea anywhere?
The only reference that you really pick up is when it gets near the surface of the water. You can see there's a distance, and I think it's probably 3/4 of a mile, roughly, away from us. And it's got to be a substantial thing. And when it goes in the water, you can see there's a substantial body of something there. You can see it almost reflects back on itself against the body of water.
Wow, 3/4 of a mile. That thing was big. That'd be
It was,
big.
oh yeah, it was big, whatever it was. It was big enough for all three of us to be having a party in there.
Well, that fucks up all my conspiracy theories, but let me tell you some of them. Okay. So first thing, I'm so on guard because George and I get fake information from different intelligence agencies all the time. So I'm like, okay, George, cheap ass Netflix that won't even go to the right place because of cost. Would they do that? Would they do that? Would they, get a helicopter, which, far away, you can't hear it? Would they put a weight on some kind of light that's big, apparently, and drop it down? The George wasn't there, so he doesn't, he can't say definitively yes or no.
We'd have heard it if they'd pulled something like that. That's what I thought too when I got the video back from, because all of those nighttime cameras went in to be processed, and that I don't see how it could be faked, because it's sound looped into it. The sound loop hasn't been edited. I ran it through my computer to see if it had been kind of doctored or something. No, it's the same continuous loop on it. You can hear the boat actually when it's riding on that. It's at anchor.
That's new information to me. I love. See, I didn't know that about you. So you were suspicious to begin. You're like wanting to make sure as well, Rory. It sounds like you took the audio and listened to it.
Yeah, and that, and also, I don't sleep well on boats at night because I just spent too much time on the water, and we had a big accident of a dive boat that burned down a couple of years ago. It was a great dive boat, wonderful people. And we lost 34 divers because the boat burned down in the middle of the night. So I don't sleep well on them, and I wake up all the time, probably every half an hour to an hour. And I was up every half an hour to an hour. So if our camera crew had been doing something goofy, I'd have busted them.
Jeremy, by the way, Rory didn't see this video in the morning. The guy who was the night watchman, he didn't see it when it happened. Rory and the rest of the crew did not know it happened. They didn't see that video until what? You're back on shore, right?
We were back for almost 2 weeks before I got one of the producers got a hold of me, and they were like, I'm sending you a file. You need to take a look at this.
You looked at the metadata and you made sure it was from that moment?
Yep. I mean, I've actually got a copy of the original.
Send it to me. I need to do my own analysis. But here's the deal. So like, you guys are blowing my mind right now. So I like literally just like a fan of looking at it and being protective of George and people trying to fuck with us. So this is already encouraging. I think you might have gotten a real USO. But one more thing. Let me ask you this. Okay. Who knew you were out there? Like, to give you an example, George and I have been played, or they tried to play us, like agencies that knew we were going to be somewhere, and they try to set us up. Nothing elaborate, just with people, reconnaissance people. But like, is there a possibility in your mind that people knew that George motherfucking Knapp was doing a UFO show, and that they had tasked you guys out on a boat, and our intelligence agencies were like, let's mess with these guys, and let's put a helicopter up there with a weight on it and put something in and make it go in the water? Like, is there any possibility that this was some sort of PSYOP operation from a government? I know that's crazy, but I'm asking.
I can't think. I mean, I was pretty close to the vest with it. My better half knew that I was going. I rented the equipment out of Seattle. They didn't know exactly where it was going. Even the boat captain and I decided where we were going later in the afternoon to where we would be that night. I mean, David, the boat captain, who was a great guy on the Peace dive boat, him and I hadn't picked our anchor spot until, I would say, 3, 4 in the afternoon. And most of the crew didn't have telephone access. So I don't know how somebody could have done something like that. But I don't put anything past the government.
In this compressed amount of time that you have to do a show, they can't tell the full story, right? So now I'm kind of learning it for the first time. I think, personal opinion, I think this is the first time that there is civilian UAP footage I don't know if the first time, but I mean, it's pretty wild. It's a UAP. It's unknown to us, but guys, it's transmedium. It goes into the water. It goes down. This relates to what you saw, Rory, that first sparked you, under the water, that thing under your ship. I mean, I don't think we're giving this footage enough credit because it wasn't displayed in a way that we can in the Netflix show, or that they could in the Netflix show, because of the compression of time. Guys, this is wild.
And it is on Netflix only. So I know a lot of people that don't have Netflix. So they haven't seen it. And people who have seen it, friends of mine, they regard me as a pretty professional guy when I'm working on the water. And they're amazed. I mean, and these are guys who work on the water, guys and gals who work with friends who have seen, years underway, and they're like, that's cool. That's great. And they all have a story of a similarity.
There are a lot of videos, clips of things zipping around in the sky over the ocean. There are a few videos of big lights, mystery lights under the ocean. There is, to my knowledge, no civilian recorded video of a UAP going into the water and then vanishing underneath the ocean. I've never seen one. I heard about them, but never seen one.
I mean, guys, I'm so glad that they're allowing us on Weaponized to kind of show more of this footage and talk about it. Like, I don't know what it is, but when George told me, he's like, dude, I think we got something weird, something really unique. So that's why I wrote in that thing, like, this could be the first ever transmedium UAP civilian footage filmed. And that's encouraging, because the more people that have cameras, the more people that are looking, the more people like you who are credible and professional and have a history, Rory, and talk about it, the less that the stigma stalks people. Like you even said yourself, when you had that first experience, you didn't go around telling people because you still were working in the government. Guess what? People leave the government and they have cameras. So not only do we have military footage of wild stuff like the USS Omaha with radar, but now we have civilian stuff. So guys, I'm really thankful for you educating me on this, because I had so many questions. Rory, thank you so much, man. What a crazy experience. I would like to say, shamelessly, I've got a friend I want you to meet. I'm making sure I got this right. His name is Vince Smith. He's like a brother to me. He's worked in the ocean. I've known him 30 years. He started something. He's the founder of a conservation, restoration, education, adaptation, resilience, profession, whatever. He started something called Whale Fall. He's the founder of the nonprofit. His name is Vince Smith. Have you ever heard of him, by the way?
No,
Rory?
I have not.
I want to connect you to him, because other than your passion for the ocean, whatnot, this is a guy that has some unique capabilities. We need to look under the water. My first tip 11 years ago from the highest ranking military individual I've ever talked with in my life was that I should look underwater. I go, I don't got a fucking submarine. How am I going to look underwater? But now I know people that do. So I want to connect you with Vincent Smith, who started that organization I said, and you guys will have a great talk. Rory, thank you so much. George, is there anything else you want to hear from Rory on this? This is big.
Oh, there's plenty, but we can bring Rory back. Hopefully there is going to be a continuation of this project at some level, and even if there is not, I think we should collaborate with Rory going forward.
Yeah, George and I, we've kind of collaborated on just spitballing on spaces where I think they would be, and using his experience, and I think I sent George a link the other day about radar and things that show up on radar, and you can go back through this library of things that show up, and I think there's a way to analyze this and get out to some hotter areas. And with the new technology, underwater LiDAR, if there's something there, it's findable.
Yeah, laser radar. That's how we find all these ancient temples that they're keeping secret so people don't go raid them.
The underwater LiDAR is a new technology that's it's new to civilian archaeologists like myself, but the military's probably had it for 20 years.
Of course. And they're terrified that you have it now. They're terrified you have it, because you know where to look, you know what to do, and you have the technology is becoming more accessible. Anyway, Rory, man, thank you so much, because talking with somebody, I get to learn and trust a lot more what I'm seeing on like a Netflix show. But like, George, I hope you do more, another season of the Netflix. I learned so much from that show, and I hope you do it if you want to do it.
So we thought 2023 was the year of the drones. Remember the 3 supposed Chinese objects, spy balloons floating across the U.S., lots and lots of coverage. U.S. military jumps into action, shoots them down. We get the last one, that big Chinese balloon goes all the way across the country. Holy cow, that was a drone UAP spy balloon palooza there. That was nothing compared to what's going on now. 2024 might be remembered as the year of the drone attacks, because they're popping up all over the place. And I would submit that drones are the new swamp gas, that the military goes ahead and says, oh, yeah, we got big different shaped objects of swamp gas invading our airspace over and over again. We don't know where they're from. We can't track them. We can't take them down, but don't worry about it. It's just swamp gas. So they use drones in much the same way. Oh, yeah, they're drones. Maybe they're foreign. We don't really know where they're from. They're hobbyists, gasoline powered, nothing to worry about. But again, we can't track them. They come out of nowhere. They disappear nowhere. We don't know who's flying them. We can't seem to take them down. They come into sensitive airspace, sensitive military bases all over the place. Langley, pretty important base. There's video online out of Duke nuclear power plant, unknown objects, and then a spate of drone reports over sensitive military installations in the UK. And thankfully, we happen to know a guy who lives and works there, is a pretty good journalist, right, Jeremy?
Yeah, an incredible journalist, a friend of the show, a friend of mine. I consider him family.
Hey guys, lovely here to be here with you both. So yeah, thank you for having me on.
What the heck is going on in the skies of the UK over these particular military bases? How many of them have seen these mystery drones over the past couple of weeks?
Yeah, sure. So since a week ago Wednesday, it's been confirmed that there have been mystery drones flying over Royal Air Force air bases operated by the US Air Force. So the main 3 that have been impacted are RAF Mildenhall, RAF Feltwell, and the biggest one being RAF Lakenheath. And they're very, very, very close together in the east of England, in the Suffolk, Norfolk area. So imagine like East Anglia, kind of near where Rendlesham happened, actually, in that kind of geographic location. And there's also been drone incursions reported over RAF Fairford as well, again operated by the US Air Force. That's in the western half, kind of more in the western half of the UK, kind of Gloucestershire kind of way. So Cotswolds, if you can imagine that. So so those 2 areas, like 130 miles apart, basically. So it seems to be a coordinated effort. What's going on, and the US Air Force has been, and the Ministry of Defence from the UK have been very, very reactive about these things. F-15s are taking off, going around circles. From last night up until the 4th December, they'll be flying without lights as well over the area. It's pretty
routine, just routine training kind of stuff. No. So how many of these objects have been spotted? How often do they show up? How long do they stay? And what happens to them? How do they get away?
Yeah, sure. So it's multiple objects. I don't have an exact number, but it seems to be a coordinated effort. From my understanding, it looks like they're being pre-programmed. They're on a pre-programmed route going around these bases. So it's highly coordinated, but the mystery is how they're being deployed and where are they being deployed from. Again, also, like we've reported with other cases, who are the controllers? I think kind of pre-program makes sense, like we see in the Ukraine. So if we work on the assumption that these are drones, it's kind of like in the Ukraine, you might have them being pre-programmed a certain route, but also you might have someone like miles away in front of a computer screen. So it's not someone, if they are operating drones, someone could just like search the perimeter and catch them with a remote control or something like that. So if it is a drone, if we're working on that assumption, it's highly coordinated. We're not talking about simple technology because these things are operating at night. From my understanding, between 5 p.m. to around 10 p.m. that they're operating. They're also operating in very, very difficult weather conditions as well. From my understanding, they were operating over last weekend when there was a storm in the UK and we had winds of 65 miles per hour in that area. So they're operating in those areas. And I think that the US Air Force and the UK MOD are spooked. From my understanding, the UK MOD is on an emergency kind of like footing at the moment. This is seen as a huge priority. All resources have gone into this, and there seems to be a press blackout as well currently. They're not talking about it as they should do. This should be front page. It's a big, big deal, especially because RAF Lakenheath was supposed to take delivery of nuclear weapons. We don't know if it has taken that delivery or not, but that came out in January that it was scheduled to take potential delivery of.
Probably just a coincidence then that suddenly drones show up there. They're just drones. Could buy them on Amazon, I guess.
Well, yeah, Chris, let me ask you this real quick. I don't know much about it. I've been dealing with like actual other life stuff, but I've been trying to follow your reporting. Like, let's stop this bullshit. By definition, they're really cool drones because they seem to operate in like wind speeds, all that stuff. I don't know the sizes of them. I want to ask you about that. But let's be clear. We can shoot down drones. Like, we can do that. We're really good at that. And in fact, we don't need to do that. We have other types of technologies. Like the famous one is return to sender, send a bomb back to where it came, blow people up. This is not a problem. There are people on record saying drones are not a problem. We can take care of drones. I've interviewed people like that. So they're drones. They are. Are they also UAP? Do we know who's operating, where they're launching and landing, or are they UAP?
Well, this is the thing, we've had some objects that have been seen that do look like drones, and some people have said they could hear drone noises, but we've also, I've been speaking to a guy called, well, his name is Liberty. He runs a YouTube stream out of Lakenheath, and he's seen a lot of the action over there in the past week or so, and he actually has been describing seeing some very, very strange objects as well over the area.
Like what?
Drones.
What's weird? What's strange?
I'm trying to rethink what he did, but I mean, we've been seeing photos of oddly shaped objects. I mean, I'll see if I can find some footage that he potentially provide you so you can see some of those. But I've had reports of orange orbs as well in the area. So yeah, there does seem to be a bit of weird mixed in with some potentially prosaic drones as
okay,
well.
but that's not weird. And let's make sure people understand this. 2019, when all the ships were swarmed over multiple nights, of course we sent up drones. We did. There were also the incursions of everything else that might have been drones, right? But not drones, just UAP too. So of course we have a whole variety of assets that get airborne the moment we have airborne incursions. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Arrow and the DoD kind of have us in a linguistic trap when it comes to UAP as well.
Yes.
Because according to the definition they have of UAP, unless they exhibit anomalous behavior, such as the 5 observables, then they can't be categorized as UAP, which is why, it was important for them to say, oh, Go Fast isn't a UAP in that latest hearing, because they basically debunked their own name, say, well, actually, if it's not that fast, it can't be a UAP because it doesn't have any extreme performance characteristics. But I think the argument would be, how do you know if it's not a UAP, if it's not how do you know if it's not capable of these extreme performance characteristics, especially if you don't know who the controllers are? and where they originate from. So
How hard is that to find out? How they have to land? How hard is that to find out where these things are launching and landing from? Why is that such a big mystery since 2019 and before? Why?
This is the thing, they've got 60 people from I believe it's the British Army who've been sent out there now to help patrol the perimeter. They've got police all around the area. Locals are totally spooked. I mean, unlike the US, we're a very, very, very small country in the UK, so there's not many sparsely populated areas unless you go for right to the northern part of Scotland. So again, this is an area where there's lots of people living nearby. They're seeing what's happening. They're spooked. And despite lots of security being there, they can't seem to work out where they're coming from, or perhaps who's operating them as well. I mean, I've heard rumors that, it could be the Chinese, could be the Russians. We know that there's been activity by those forces ever since the US and UK provided permission to strike Russia with the ATACMS and Storm Shadow missiles. We know that's fractured up. We know that the Chinese allegedly been cutting communications cables under the Baltic. We know that the Russian ships as well by communications cables connecting Great Britain with North America.
Yeah.
So no, that's fractured.
No, but these are big objects. They have to refuel. We have ways of taking them down. You follow them. You have radar. Why can't we determine where they're fueling, launching, and landing? It makes zero sense unless we're not being told.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, these should be pretty basic things determining where they're actually being launched from.
It's dangerous if it's not.
Yeah, especially if they're being launched, they have to be being launched locally. I mean, this has happened for over a week now. I think this is like the 9th or 10th night now. US Air Force is still being reactive, so is the MOD. They don't seem to have a grip on the situation, despite it going on for so long. And that's really, really quite alarming. I mean, these should be pretty basic things, right?
U.S. officials have been a little vague, a little fuzzy on what the legal abilities are to shoot these things down over an airbase, sensitive military installations. Oh gosh, we don't want to shoot one down and hurt some civilians on the ground. Of course, we know that ships out at sea have encountered these unknown drones. They don't shoot them down either. Do you happen to know, Chris, if they've tried in the UK in these incursions? Obviously, they can't be tracked. They just suddenly are there, and then they're gone, and we can't track them to where they came from or where they go. They're there. Has anybody tried to shoot one down or take one out or disable it with EMP or missiles or rockets or bullets or anything?
Yeah, so there are rumors circulating that 2 were brought down by the US Air Force. I've asked the US Air Force to comment on that. Nothing's come back to me so far, but but also, there are a lot of eyes on this base, and there's a lot of people living in this area. There's been no eyewitness testimony of anything being brought down as well. So it's really difficult to tell. There's a communications vacuum when it comes to this. I think one of the concerns possibly could be that when you return back to sender, it's supposed to send back to where it originated from. I think there's a fear as well that, someone may have edited that so it actually goes onto the airfield, perhaps on the flight line. It has a payload and it could potentially...
but if they have payloads, they're not going to put lights on them, and they're not going to let you know. That's not how that works in combat. It's never worked like that in combat. So that's a bullshit excuse. Where are they coming from? We have the best tracking satellites on planet Earth. Where are they coming from?
We don't know, right?
This is the thing. We don't know. We don't know, but we do know. But we do know that, like you said, we have the best satellites. You've got the NRO, you've got the NGA, and there's various sensor systems that could put eyes on this area to actually determine this information. But look, I don't pretend to know what it is. They're calling them drones. Susan Goff thinks they're drones. They say we knew them; they were drones.
No, she doesn't.
But the question is, how do you determine whether they're drones? How do you positively determine?
They are drones. They're unmanned. They're drones. We all agree. They're also UAP. The thing is, there is a mandate around any ground troops within a certain number of miles that mandatory they have to be shot down. There is fuckery here. And look, I'm fired up, but I'm not getting less fired up. So that's just the way it is. There's a mandate. People can look it up. When things are close to ground troops, you take them down. What's going on?
It's all I can say is it's rattled a lot of people locally. Their families there, people with children, and all they're doing is they're hearing airplanes, military jets, their lights off. They're seeing lots of activity at the base. There's an information vacuum. No one's being told anything. You've got police everywhere. Press is shut up about it in this country. No one's talking about it, despite the MOD being on an emergency footing. I can't think of when this has happened previously, and you'll speak to lots of people who are there locally who will have a lot of knowledge when it comes to the US Air Force operating the area, and this seems very, very unprecedented when it comes to these kinds of things.
Chris, are you worried? Are you worried that? So I'm worried that what is going on right now is that we are being influenced through a campaign to be acclimated to an idea that may be true, but we're giving events that are not true in order to influence that idea. I don't know if I'm being clear. I am concerned right now that there are fake psyops, that there are things being done by the United States government to put fear and confusion into the American and global public about UAP for an agenda. And actually, I have evidence to some degree of that. So are you concerned at all that unprecedented events like this, that make zero sense, that they just think we're idiots, and that all of a sudden they're trying to create this fear of these unidentified unknowns, unknown origin, when it's so easy to track? George and I directly know and have been exposed to footage of high capability of looking at these types of things. That is fact. George can attest to that if he wanted to right now. So, are you concerned at all that this is a charade?
Yeah. This is the thing. You don't know what you don't know. I don't know their drones. I don't know who the controllers are. I don't know where they originate from. I don't know what the US knows. I don't know what the British authorities know. I know nothing. This is the thing, and there's an information vacuum right now, and it makes things worse. All I do know when it comes to this is that they're unknown origin. No one's determined where they're from. It's ongoing.
That's what we're being told. No one's determined where they're from. Are you concerned about the lack of transparency to journalists like yourself within your country?
Yeah, I am. And laws are very, very draconian in the UK as well. You got to be extra careful because we have different secrecy laws when it comes to the UK. And they're a lot more harsher to journalists. I would
explain that. Explain that to me. What do you mean? You're a journalist. So I have not been able to call you in months because I'm dealing with some stuff right now. So that sucks because you're a foreign national. Tell me why it's draconian in your country.
It's draconian in our country because we don't have freedom of speech like you have in America. We don't have sure protection laws or anything like that. If we inadvertently cover something which is kind of like official secrets or something like that covered by the act in this country, the courts have more power, the police have more power, the military have more power to come after us, basically, in the UK. And there have been some cases, I can't remember off by hand, but there have definitely been cases where, journalists have got in trouble for kind of messing around with that. And the UK, has power over journalists as well. They do have D-Day notice. They can cover up stories if they want. They can have news blackouts and stuff like that. And now we have a new media landscape where you don't just have the traditional BBC and Telegraph kind of dictating what people see in terms of the news. You have independent outlets as well. You have X. So it's much more difficult to control in the UK. And also I point out as well that the channel that has been streaming everything happening in Lakenheath Well, that channel got removed from YouTube. Don't know why, and also the email address was compromised as well. So the person running it had to take his email address off. He has to use a different one now. He's had to relaunch his channel on YouTube. So I don't know who did that, but it just seems that we live in this different climate when it comes to secrecy in the UK.
I should add a note here. We're going to have this conversation at some point in the future, but Lakenheath has a long history of really odd, interesting UAP activity. This is one of the targets of the OSAP program. Now, the public hasn't seen this material. I am somewhat familiar with it, though, and I can tell you there's some really well-documented incidents involving Lakenheath that is yet to surface in public. So at some point, maybe we can have that conversation.
And you want that, George. Like, you want that to surface, but so this is where people get mad. You want that to surface. You've been exposed to it. But the thing is, as a journalist, when you give your word to be informed, you don't break that word. And so people need to understand, we are doing our best to get everything out. You are doing your best. You're saying there's something you say the public hasn't.
Yeah. Yeah. And, so far, at least temporarily in our country, we don't have the same kind of legal risks that are facing Chris right now. But I'm not entirely confident that the situation won't change. We have a situation here now, these in the UK, where these unknowns appear out of nowhere. They disappear out of nowhere. We cannot track them. I think the best case scenario our government wants to push is these are probably foreign operated drones. Some spy is hiding in a thatched hut out by Stonehenge and is pre-programming these things. Is there not a signal that stays with these drones? I guess if you pre-program them, you don't have to have an ongoing signal that can be tracked. Or do you know? Either of you guys know? No?
I believe they can track the radio frequency if there is a controller. Yeah.
Each scenario is there are hundreds of these things showing up over sensitive installations. Langley Air Force Base is home to like half of the F-22s in our country. They have the F-35s there. The bases that you're talking about, they have very expensive planes and equipment and personnel, and we do not have the capability of shooting them down, or we haven't tried. Either one is chilling. If we have tried and can't knock them down, that's scary. We can't track them. If they are foreign operated drones by China or Russia, that is way scarier than some object from an interdimensional intelligence or aliens or something like that. I mean, my gosh, that is an intelligence failure of a gigantic magnitude. And we're casually being told, don't worry, these are just drones, nothing to see here. There have been 600 incursions over U.S. military installations since 2022. Not 600 objects, but 600 different incursions, according to NORAD. And we haven't solved any of them, haven't caught them. We all saw the 3 Chinese spy balloons supposedly shot down. There is wreckage that showed up a couple of weeks ago. We found out on the shores of Lake Huron. Where is it? Where's the Roswell type press photos of the balloon footage or whatever? There's a lot of gamesmanship being played here. I am not at all confident and comfortable about the idea of foreign drones flying at your country, Chris, over those bases or over U.S. bases or over U.S. military facilities, cities, nuclear plants, etc. It's not at all comforting.
Let me just augment what you said, George, because I talk to military personnel every day at bases or on deployment at sea. There are resolved cases all the time. We get somebody from the Chinese government, and sometimes they use tourists, and they have them fly DJI drones to do reconnaissance on a base the tourist doesn't even know. I know about these cases. What they do is they resolve it. They're like, oh, okay, that's what happened. A spy in Guam goes to a bar, finds a tourist, makes him fly a drone up. Really cool, right? Fly it over there. Happens every day. They resolve it. So whatever these cases are, maybe they're unresolved. We resolve these cases every day. You said, can we shoot them down? Can we, target them? Do we know where they are? George, that you have seen the capability of the United States to identify things from satellite. You know that we can track all of this shit.
Oh, yeah.
We're being lied to.
Where does the story go for you, Chris? What's next for you? Or you don't want to say. Don't want to give anything away.
Well, in terms of this story, it's just when does it end? I mean, it's been going on for over a week now. I think this is like the 10th night it's been going on for. When does it end? That's what I want to know. It's and that's why I don't think the UK want it in the press, because it's basically we don't have control of our own airspace, let alone the Americans. And that's unnerving. They don't want people to panic over that. It's crazy. It's unprecedented. But I mean, in terms of the other stuff that I want to do, I mean, yeah, I want to keep on investigating the retrieval missions, UAP retrieval missions, and the reverse engineering programs. I want to continue looking at the Central Intelligence Group that was formed before the CIA and the OSS, and what happened to the Magenta craft, and the Mission Center, which apparently is the place which is related to this Central Intelligence Group that got possession of the Magenta craft from an aspect that was moved over from the Manhattan Project to the Central Intelligence Group. I just find it really, really interesting, and I'm really, really interested as well in terms of the incoming Trump administration, about it going to war with the bureaucracy. So we're talking about, we're talking about people like, Glenn Gaffney, for instance, people in high positions in the intelligence community that are the gatekeepers. And I think that the Trump administration is ready to go to war with them, backed by people who have connections to people like Peter Thiel and Elon Musk, let's say. And I mean, one could argue as well that, let's say that Lockheed Martin is having trouble attracting the talent to actually exploit these materials. Okay, someone could put a good argument in that, well, the best people in the world to actually exploit materials work for SpaceX. That's where the best engineers are going now.
Move that stuff over.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Or we've had great people working on it, and there are derivative technologies that we've exploited, and now people are getting greedy, and now they want to take it out the back door, put it in the front, have ownership of those technologies. I mean, look, man, I'm done. Chris, I'm angry now, right?
Absolutely. I've known you for a long time, and I've never seen you like this before. And I know there's a lot going on in your life, and I know that you're not going to take any more of this.
That's right. And here's the deal. I'm not angry. So this is the real me. The real me is I've been biding my time. I've been listening. I've been looking. I've been watching. I'm done. People are going to be exposed. So I want to say something really clearly. Look, as a journalist, Chris, in the UK covering, the CIA, if part of the reason why I haven't called you to talk about Link and Lily and your family is because, I know you're exposed. If anybody messes with Christopher Sharpe and his journalism in the UK, we are exposing you, and we will be louder than you can comprehend. And I want to make that public, because we will be, Chris, because you are not as protected as we are in the United States. So listen, another thing I'll say, and this is a threat. We have UAP interested allies in UK Parliament. You're all fucked. If you mess with Christopher Sharpe and his reporting in any nefarious way, for years, I have bided my time, and I have allies in UK Parliament. You will be exposed. And I'm saying that as a friend, Chris, because I want to protect you, because you've had some big-ass stories that were accurate, and they involved the CIA.
My advice to you, Chris, after a long career in journalism is this. You've been covering this stuff night after night, these incidents that keep happening. Take a night off, because it will wear you down after a while. I would take the night off, go to a pub, hang out with nefarious UFO-type personalities who might be in town, I don't know who that might be. But
he does it to me all the time. I'm going to try right now. Don't say anything. He does it to me all the time. He does it to me all the time. Hold on.
I can guess who this is.
Oh, can you? Okay, hold on. He is so fucked. He's my friend. Oh, and there's this video online that's like hilarious. That's unreal, and I'll tell you about it. This is Girls Gone Wild, Weaponized. Are you ready? Let's see.
Come on, they have to pick up.
I'll mess with him if he doesn't.
Yeah, I think like a video message or something.
Yeah, no, I got this. I know what I'm doing. Okay, watch this. I'm gonna do it if he's in the UK, I don't do normal text, so I'm gonna do a video message right now. Lou, I know where you are. I know who you're with. So I'm right now on video with Christopher Sharpe, with George motherfucking Knapp.
Lou, where you hiding?
I want to talk about a video people put out in Congress about you and me having some argument where I attacked you about getting Geico insurance or something. Really weird. Video me back. I'm on with Chris. I just want to have a moment where we can talk. Hit me right now. Come on, buddy. You do this to me all the time.
I mean, from what I saw, that was a full and heated argument, and you guys are like worse enemies now. Is that correct?
Hold on. Tell me what you saw. I want to play this. What did you see and what was said? I didn't read, but I was sent the video.
Yeah. I saw you just push a poor lady out of the way, and she went tumbling down. Poor lady, you know. And I think you might have pointed at her and laughed or something, and then you screamed at Lou. And you manhandled Lou, and yeah, it seemed like a full-out argument.
I just wanted to make sure that he had like Geico insurance for his car because I know he rented one. I don't know what those are. Look, let's stop making a joke. Let's play the video. Lou told the truth in Congress. Lou has told the truth to the best of his ability that I know of up to date. Lou has not lied to the American public. I hope he doesn't lie in the future, but he hasn't lied yet. So I went over to him and somebody put some video online and they like slowed it down and repeated it when it looked like I body checked some chick, but we were just two gravitational forces moving around each other. No contact was made. And then I talked to Lou, but it's right after he comes out of hearing. I just happened to see him out the corner of my eye. I'm like, hey, Lou, you told the truth, but Congress lied. And he said to me, wait, I'm not tracking. Oh, we talked after that a bunch, right? But like in that moment, they sped it up even like he's trying to get away from me. Oh, my Lord, Lou is my friend. Lou even said to me, Lou says, oh, man, come on, we should have fun with this. Like, let's like tell people what was really going on. I'm like, no. Let's let them talk. I want to see who makes up fake stories and propagates them so I can catalog like Santa all their names and know if they're naughty or nice so I can find out who they are. You know, it was hilarious, man. Lou is a good friend of all of ours. This has nothing to do with the UFO world. He's just a good dude. And then he's also told the truth. And that to me is important. So he didn't know that Congress lied. But he knows now. So that interaction was just me being like, oh my God, what's going on? And I went up to Lou. Dude, he's a good friend. It's so crazy to me. If people just look at the things put online and then how people want to twist it, what they should look at is who's trying to twist it. What are they trying to twist it to? And why?
And you're correct. There's a bigger picture emerging now, and people need to look at the forest, not the trees, because there is a bigger pattern emerging. There's a bigger jet emerging.
What's the bigger pattern?
Like we said, it's the technology. Who's in position at the moment? Who funded Trump's incoming national security advisor.
Who did?
Who also funded the vice president in his Senate race when he was losing his Senate race.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Who did?
His initials are PT.
So, yeah, you look at all these people coming into important positions, and a lot of them have a common thread in terms of who they are funded by.
No, I'm dead. So
Right.
who are you talking about, and who funded all these people?
So we know that Peter Thiel has funded these people. So what?
Oh, come on. Can I turn this camera around? Come on, Lou.
Sure.
Okay, hold on. I don't know how to best. How do we do this? Hold on. Hey, what's up? Everybody thinks I screamed at you and I body checked somebody, but there you are with your beautiful wife. Where are you?
Not at all.
Where are you?
We're in London. We're at the hotel.
Dude, what are you doing in London? Hey, Jen, what are you doing in London, Lou?
I don't know, just slumming.
Dude, this is going to cause so many conspiracy theories. I don't know if you can see us properly.
Actually, hold on. Somebody wants to say hi.
Uh-oh. Oh my gosh, hold on.
Alex.
Alex, hey, both of you, what are you doing?
We're having a working vacation.
Okay, well, welcome to
Vacation
Weaponized.
again working for me.
Hold on. The whole Lou Elizondo family. Welcome, the whole clan. Welcome to Weaponized. Welcome to Weaponized.
Oh, there's going to be some stories about this night.
Chris,
This,
how are you, brother?
How are you?
I'm good, brother. Long time no see, right?
this should be a film. Chris Sharpe meets the Elizondo clan in London.
I know. It's been
Heads will roll.
I know, right?
hasn't it?
God save the queen and the king.
Oh man, so Lou, listen, I want to hit a couple nails on the head. So one day people are saying, oh, so these guys must not like Lou because he hasn't been on Weaponized. We want to come see you guys and hang out with you. That's first of all.
You were supposed to.
I know, brother. People talk a bunch of, that's why I don't get on X other than to answer people directly, because for whatever reason, people have this weird cockamamie idea that, they see something, they fill in the blanks, like we're fighting or something. I'm like, dude, Jeremy and George are my brothers. What are you talking about? I mean, we break bread together.
I know, man.
When
And
are you coming to Wyoming?
Yeah, when are you guys coming to Wyoming?
very soon, I just got to get George Knapp the package from point A to point B. It'll be easy.
Damn it, George, when are you coming over, man?
Things are easing up for me a little bit. I've been on the road for a long time and a lot of traveling for Weaponized, for Netflix, for KLAS. So I'm looking forward to
You
it.
guys are doing a great job.
I hear winter is just lovely in Wyoming. It's nice. It's moderate.
It's the best time of year to come.
Yeah, if you like making igloos and, the
Snow angels.
Arctic lifestyle, sure.
Hey, listen, so a lot of people are going to make up all these weird things about, you jumping on Weaponized. Why haven't you been on? Why haven't we mentioned your book?
Yeah, you know what? Why haven't I been on? Damn it.
I don't know. No, don't do that. Don't feed into it. Okay, but here's the
I'm
deal.
just kidding, brother. I know.
Okay, but let's squash one thing. I came up to you in the hallway where they pretended that I body checked some chick that's was with you in a blue thing. Did I?
I saw that. I saw
Did
that.
I-
Dude, honestly, okay, I'll catch you up there. The truth be told, look, I'm really disappointed. I didn't save 15% on my auto insurance. I'm just, heartbroken. And look, you had to be the bearer of bad news. I get it.
Yeah. He wasn't with Geico. He wasn't with Geico, guys.
No, I wasn't with Geico, and I lesson learned. Shame on me, but I'm wiser for it now.
Okay, so is your friend okay, or did I knock her down? Is she okay?
I think so. She needed a couple stitches, but she's okay.
Okay, and so Lou, I was coming up to you just to congratulate you. I just saw you at the corner of my eye, and I was like, dude, you told the truth. I was like, Congress lied, and I'll talk to you more about that later, Lou, but you told the truth, and you were up against stuff where you wanted to tell more but could only tell in a secure environment. I just like we'll do this right later.
My daughter Taylor, she says hi.
Hey, hold on, let me see your pretty daughters. Hold on. What's up? Oh my gosh.
Smarter daughters.
Yeah, well, of course. Hey, good to see you. Look at these guys, these handsome guys.
Chris, you just saw him.
I spoke to them today. They're wonderful girls.
Yeah.
Very, very proud father.
I miss you guys. I can't wait to come out and hang out in Wyoming. Hopefully you get the whole family together, but I love you guys, and people just don't know, so they make up shit. I just wanted to say hi. That's it. We'll do a
Dude,
proper...
story of my life. Every time I get on X, all they see are these weird conspiracies that, Lou is working social media for some weird maniacal reason. It's like...
No, hold on. Let me ask your daughters. Come forward. Is your dad a maniacal guy, and he's a wizard, and he's magically messing with everybody about the truth?
He may be a wizard, but he's not a maniacal one. He's more like Gandalf the White.
I love you, Pops. I love you guys.
Emphasis on white, right? Emphasis on white.
Hey, look, we're all getting gray. We're going to get like George Nappy, a silver fox one day if we're lucky. But anyway, Lou.
George wears it well. I don't. I just look like fat Santa Claus.
Hey, listen, self-deprecation doesn't work. I love you guys. Have a great trip. And I just wanted to fuck around a little bit. But we'll do this right.
Guys, man.
We'll do this right. I love you guys. I'll see you later.
Take care, brother. Love you, man. Be safe. Good to see you again, Chris. What is it, 3 hours? Bye, guys.
Later, guys.
And that's going to throw us off the trail. Good seeing you, Chris. Like you're not going to meet up later. Tongues will wag.
Anyway, look, this is a very real episode. I just wanted to have friends on and talk with George and hang out. But Chris, thank you so much for the work you're doing. Look, we don't know the ultimate truth. We can think all these things through, but your reporting is inspiring. You as a human being are inspiring. As a friend, you're inspiring. I just really appreciate the work you do. Don't stop. Don't listen to the negative stuff. Just fight, brother. Just keep going. Go. Go UFO, brother. That's what's up.
A lot of confusing signals came out from that hearing. I mean, it's a mixed bag,
Why?
Well, look, I think my impression is, on one level, both subtle and overt, it's important that those hearings happen. Politicians who elected officials put their reputations and their careers on the line when they give credence to this subject. There were 50 years where there were no hearings. We've had a couple, and although they don't go as far as the public would like, as far as UAP enthusiasts would like, it's important to have them. It was important to hear those things from Lou Elizondo.
Yeah.
Is there a crash retrieval program? Yes. Is there a reverse engineering program? Yes. Is it being hidden from the public and from Congress? Yes. Those are all good things to get on the record. This is a hearing before a congressional committee. It is the witnesses are under oath. It is televised to the whole world. That's important for the subject, for the credibility of the overall subject. But at the same time, where people like Tim Burchett are moving the ball forward, who are standing up for the truth, there was a lot of gamesmanship that was pretty obvious to anyone who was paying attention. What the hell was that? Who said you elected members of Congress are not allowed to ask questions about X, Y, or Z? Who the hell does that? Says whom? Do you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but I think let's wait. What I want to do is I want to see how hungry people are for truth, how many lies they're going to tell themselves and tell each other. And I want to see if people really want to know the truth. Look, man, you said something a second ago. You said that politicians put their credit on the line. Now I get that with people like Representative Burchett. He's the only one in Congress that told the truth. The only one. So like, I want to know like what that means, because I see people benefiting from talking about this and not putting their credit on the line. And that's different.
I know what you mean. I'm just looking at the broad scope of history.
Okay.
And the broad scope of American discussion of the UFO mystery.
Gotcha.
It is risky for elected officials to be out in front on this issue because so much of it is wacky.
Right.
95% of the cases are explainable. all kinds of conspiracy theorists get involved with this stuff. People make things up. There is disinformation that is an active effort by government agencies, ongoing, by our military. They muddy the waters. They stir things up. They keep us off balance on purpose. It's not an accident that so much disinformation is out there, or that it's not taken seriously, or the stigma. All those things were discussed and planned a long time ago. And it is still a fact that these elected members of Congress have some risk to their credibility when they get out in front on that issue. So I give them credit for having the hearing, for stepping forward, for appearing to be champions for transparency. However, there's other things that were clearly going on behind the scenes. The fact that this hearing happened at all, what the ultimate goals were for some of the people who participated, because we see lots of different threads that pulled together weave a more interesting tapestry. That there's big things behind the scenes that are underway right now involving the UFO issue, and we're just sticking our nose under the tent and getting a little glimpse. You and I maybe have a better glimpse of that, but the public is seeing only a little tiny bit of it.
Well, we're going to make sure they see the whole of it. But before we do that, I want to go back. Now I understand what you're saying. You know, it's been denial. It's been ridicule set up directly by, I think it was the Condon Committee and the FBI, the whole idea of conspiracy theorists and UAP and getting people to look wacky. So we're up against a lot. But I do think the history of hearings is kind of what you're talking about. Now, I had this moment where I looked back at my life and I looked at these images from the Citizen Hearing on Disclosure, which Reuben Langdon set up, and I helped with that. And that was 5 congresspeople, 1 senator, 40 witnesses, 7 days almost, I believe, of testimony. That was in 2013. New York Times covered it. I took that New York Times article to somebody and I showed it to them. And I was like, yeah, we're really pushing here. And what I realized you're saying is that for so long we've been lied to, and you've been lied to, and you've documented how you've been lied to about UFOs. So as far as hearings, it hadn't happened in 50 years. I'm looking at myself in 2013 being like, oh shit, we're trying to have a hearing on UFOs. Oh, that'll never happen again. And boom, they start happening again. Representative Carson says my name in the hearing. I'm like, what the fuck? It was so bizarre. That was the first hearing in 50 years. People forget that. They think it was with Grush. It wasn't. That was the second hearing. And that hearing only happened because Representative Burchett and I fought for it. So here we are now. And we've had 3 public hearings. However, there have been a lot of behind-the-scenes private witness testimony, and I have been part of that. If you really hear what was muffled under what Representative Burchett said when somebody coughed into the microphone, when he was trying to say something, when he got his 5 minutes, there's something he said. So to your point, I agree. It's so amazing, the history of hearings. We are having them. But I want to tell you something which you might not know because you weren't there this time, because you put me off leash. You were like, oh, just go crazy. You weren't there with me to protect me from being myself. This is what I realized last night. I'm laying there, I'm thinking, what was so different about this hearing? We have good people testifying. We got that cool guy from NASA, Mike, with his cool son and his government relations woman who was right there with him. You know, we had Lou Elizondo. I'm going to say good people. We had Lou Elizondo, right? Dude, that guy was amazing. The feeling in the room, George, when you were there the first time, the feeling in the room was like celebration, like finally, like, wow, we're talking about this with our mouths out loud and we're saying it out loud and people are saying it who are in position to know. Like David Grush, who is who he says he is, who had the job he said he did, who had the access he said he did, whole way through. The feeling was different this time, and I couldn't really put my finger on it. It was ominous. It was weird. I was pumped. I did all these texts before. I'm like, oh, it's coming out. Shit's coming out. Well, that's because I had something. We had something to say, to come out. Now, that didn't happen. Not that way. But that's okay. There are other ways things can come out. So the feeling in the room, George, I finally put my finger on it. I did last night, for real. First time was real. It was honest. This hearing was dishonest. Now, not Siri, she's talking at me. This hearing was dishonest. Now, Lou Elizondo, as an example, just one example, he was honest. He told the truth. Don't fuck with my words. The entire setup, the hearing itself, the months of me working with accountability and oversight, the calls you were on, the calls I brought other people on, the people I walked into offices. I don't want to say too much right now, but that was the difference, George. The feeling, if you were in there, you would have told me like this. That's the difference. It didn't register till now. The entire hearing was controlled. Now, I'm either crazy or I'm saying a lie or whatever people want to say, but I bet we're going to find out.
So we'll be definitely hearing more about Congress and people behind Congress and manipulations and things that are taking place. And maybe it all ends up in a good place. It could end up being a positive sort of a development, even though underhanded, dishonest tactics are being used to get there. As the public goes forward, if these intrusions continue, swarms over sensitive military installations in this country and in other countries, if that continues, and if our government and other governments continue to say it's just drones, just everybody, when you read those stories or hear the word drones, think in your head swamp gas. Just make that substitution, because drones are the new swamp gas. They use drones as a generic sort of a term, nothing to worry about. You know, we don't know where they're from, but they're not shooting anything. They're not blowing us up. So, we're not all that concerned. Well, they are concerned. They don't know where they came from. We don't have the capabilities to shoot them down. And this is not a new thing. We didn't get into it in this episode, but this stuff has been building for a long time. I mean, as we've discussed before, in the late 1940s, green fireballs, orbs appearing over nuclear installations, labs, facilities in New Mexico. I think you've got something that you shared on the Joe Rogan show from 1960 about an object. Describe it. It's a...
Yeah, it's a cube with a spherical aura. It's from 1960 from Alamogordo in the newspaper. I did show that on our pal Joe Rogan's podcast. You know, it's ahead of its time, you know, showing something like that, but it was to show that this is not new. This is something that has been going on a long time. Alamogordo, 1960, yeah, at a military plane and a civilian plane saw it, a cube with a spherical aura. Yeah.
The same things were being seen off the East Coast by U.S. Navy pilots training out there. They reported it a bunch of times. And we have the stories that we have broken, not just long ago history, things that we have broken. In 2018, I shared with the public the idea that these naval aviators in these training areas, Oceana, the biggest naval air base on the East Coast, vital to U.S. national security, these pilots flying out every day into these training areas, these zones, we're seeing odd craft just sitting there. I guess we can call them drones, but it's not just one or two. It was a bunch of them. They all kind of look different. And I remember that one day, one crew took pictures of 3 different objects in the course of an hour, all of them different. We don't know where any of them came from or how they can sit there days at a time, just sitting there in high winds, doing whatever. And, you know, for when I reported that in 2018, that pilots are seeing that every day, nobody believed me. They thought I made it up. And then along comes, you know, Gimbal and Go Fast, those things. And then 2019, the West Coast, people are trying to dismiss that as well. Okay, I guess these were drones. Well, what kind of super drones are they that the USS Omaha, that image that followed that Omaha ship, they tried to take it down. I mean, you believe that to be the case?
No, I know that to be the case on multiple ships.
They tried and they couldn't. And, you know, that thing followed them for a long time. Here's the other part. Drones that can be sometimes picked up on radar and sometimes not. You got that video that we showed. A swarm of these things, they'd come in and out. Sometimes they're on the screen and sometimes they're off. It had anti-tracking capabilities, stealth capabilities. Who's flying those drones? It's not the Bass Strait. It's not Chinese drones. They come out of nowhere. They go nowhere. They can't track them. They can't take them down. We're not supposed to be worried about that. I mean, over Colorado, was it 2022? Hundreds of these things adjacent to ICBM nuclear facilities, military sensitive installations. They're traveling in patterns for weeks. Lots of people see them. They're recorded. That's still an unsolved mystery. And now we got them at Langley and over Duke, a nuclear energy station, Pentex.
Yeah.
Just
Or we'll
all
learn more about
over
that soon too, Pantex and the jelly.
Just drones. Don't worry about it.
Okay, but George, they are drones.
Yeah.
Drones are things that are autonomously controlled. I have to look up the definition, but so it's not a lie. It's like when Susan Gao or Susan Go, when she was like, "Oh, Immaculate Constellation, we have nothing in that in the Department of Defense." That's because it was a unacknowledged special access program outside of the purview of DoD. Although they were used to actuate it, it was actually originated just like how Department of Energy or the White House can create a USAP. So the thing is you can lie by telling the truth. And one last thing, shoot downs. They didn't believe you when you reported what pilots were reporting to you, that like this was happening every day. And I have footage of that one of the first times you said it publicly. I'll try to find it. People didn't believe you. They also went on the news and didn't believe us when we said that UAP are being shot at. And in fact, people don't understand how hard it was to get that image. It looks like Kermit the Frog. It's ridiculous. But we got an image out of a UAP that everybody should go look up because it's going to become very pertinent within the next 2 months. And that is an event, we called it the Syria Dome UAP. And that was from a direct shoot down attempt. And so people should start listening. If in reporting, journalists have been right before, they may be right in the future. So I just wanted to say something else that they didn't believe is when we talked about shoot downs, George, and it turns out we were correct. So, question. Are you proud of your Netflix show? It's fucking great. Are you proud of it?
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I'm hard to please. So there's all kinds of things I'd like to be able to do in that weren't there. We shot so much stuff that did not make the cut. There's a great conversation. Jacques Vallée is in the series, but he and I went to another location and talked for hours. Great stuff. Colares and other things. He'd been there before. Didn't make it.
Wow.
Kevin Knuth is somebody else we talked to at length who had done some really great work. We flew to Mexico City and were there for a couple of days and got somebody on camera who has never been on camera before, and it did not make the cut.
Who?
For people, it's I think I'm not allowed to say what that is because maybe if the project goes forward or has another season, we'll be able to get into that. But
and if it doesn't, you're going to spill the beans.
Yeah, I will. Sure. Yeah. If it doesn't go on, I'll spill the beans. But, there was a lot of great content that didn't make it. Can only crowd so much of it in there. It moves pretty fast. The series is good. I mean, I always would like to have more stuff, but there's no slow movement there at all.
So I mean, look, you're proud of it because this is stuff that you do that a lot of people don't get to see. I mean, obviously you're traveling the world. You've done that all the way from back in the day, going to Russia and all this stuff. So you should be proud of it. It's really cool just to see you do it. But it sounds like there's so much more. And if you're not like, working with them, you should tell everybody all these stories that happen. But look, man, I learned so much. One of the most compelling things about the series, other than like cattle mutilations and crop circles, holy shit, I think UFOs are real now. It really blew my mind. You had this thing in Brazil and they just kind of glossed over it. There's a dude that you're on the beach with and they show this red orb and it fucking leaves, like instantaneous movement. It appears. And then they've got pictures in the jungle of a flying saucer over treetops, over a field. Like, did you Photoshop that? Did they? Or is that a real photo of a flying frickin' saucer?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. We didn't Photoshop it. The guy had it on his cell phone camera there. I didn't even know we were going to see it when we saw it. And he had described it. Other people described the same stuff in that same general area. I think that was Barcarena, a lovely little garden spot in the jungle where we stayed one eventful night. Brazil is a beautiful country. It was so great. All the people, our friend Tiago had helped us out so much. And that was an adventure of a lifetime. We got great stuff. Again, there was more of that we weren't able to fit in. And, Brazil has a long, colorful history of UFO, USO incidents. That Colares case is serious. I mean, it's unlike anything else in the history of UFOs. It's an outlier. Where as many as 2,000 people were injured. Things come out of the river. out of the sky, out of the ground, shoot laser beams at people that were actually filaments that took blood, caused serious medical problems for a lot of them. And those people have been quiet. The victims, the people who are targeted, haven't been on camera. I've heard many UFO people whine, oh, I know all about this stuff. Well, really? That's a pretty impressive knowledge base because I've been at this a long time. I know a lot of stuff. And if you're telling me you knew everything in that, then you're our UFO god because I didn't know it. I learned stuff every step of the way, you know.
That was amazing to see you learn that and like to have these people come forward for the first time. Yeah, man, look, this is just like, I learned a lot from watching it. Like, I don't know, it'll always be up there on Netflix or until the contract for it is out, but like, you should watch it. People should watch it. I learned a lot. It's entertaining, but it was really cool seeing you. So, but anyway, so I also want to say real quick. So I got a friend, he's been on our show. His name is Chris Ramsey, and he's a very famous magician and like puzzle solver guy, but one of the most impressive human beings that I've met because of his desire and his hunger for the truth. So I'm known to once in a while jump on Twitter and start doing a bunch of tweets, you know, and people, I know I'm hard to read. I don't know if that's by design. I have to see a psychologist. I don't know. But I said this whole thing about, truth. Chris tells the truth. I posted some video. Truth. I don't know what I was doing. And then he goes on Vetted today, which is a very cool podcast. This guy, I'm a fan. This guy, Patrick, does these like, daily UFO updates. And I watch that shit and I'm like, you know, whenever I get a chance and I watch it, I'm like, dude, this guy's at it every day. And he's so insightful. Like he noticed something about the hearing. Patrick did on Vetted. And he just like innocently said, something seems weird. And he did like this little piece on it. And I was like, oh shit, that guy's watching. So on Vetted today, right before the show, Chris Ramsey goes on. I'm in the shower. I'm showering and I'm watching Vetted. And I see Chris, I'm like, dude, this is so cool. And he talked about something I posted online. And it was like, people thought I was like questioning Chris Ramsey or being dramatic intentionally about his honesty. Dude, it wasn't any of that. I'm a weirdo. I was just like watching Chris's thing being like, he's in for the truth. You know, he's always told me the truth. I don't know. I said something weird, but I just want to say on the show, Chris is a friend of mine. Like we're texting and I did some posts because I wanted people to see his work because Chris is this like magician. So he like knows sleight of hand. He knows he can read people. He's a mentalist. He did all these great series on remote viewing. Like, man, the guy's amazing. And he's a big guy, like a fucking warrior. I'd love to wrestle that guy because I used to wrestle and fight bigger guys. Anyway, that guy's a good dude, and I really believe he's for the truth. I was just trying to highlight people should watch his work, but I guess I do things in weird ways sometimes. So I just want to say, fan of Vetted, Patrick, keep it up. You noticed something in Congress that other people didn't, and you did it quick, and it really impressed me. And then Chris, yeah, dude, keep it up. We need people like you. So that's just my message. And then last thing to close out, there was a podcast and these people from ABC called me. I'm like, ABC? And they're like Australian broadcasting company. I was like, okay, you want to talk UFOs? They're like, yeah, please. And I'm like, I love talking UFOs. Let's do it. It's like 3 hours, right? It was like great. You know, I just get on a Zoom. I talk to people and want to talk about UFOs. I knew they were recording it, but I didn't know how cool their series was going to be. It starts off, George, with this dude in Australia with what they called, you notified this to me in your Netflix series. They used to call them saucer nests.
Yeah.
I'd never heard that before. So they start the whole series in episode 1 and 2 of season 4, and it's called, I think it's called Expanse, and the season 4 is called Uncropped. But that's the one. And man, I listened to it. One of your friends, George, Keith Basterfield, who's like this badass investigator out of Australia, who like has been after this forever. Dude, he was fantastic. And he was on there. But here's the deal. I listened to the first couple episodes and I'm like, I think I'm on this one. And they talk about these saucer nests and talk about the shame people feel and how it ruined their lives. I'm like, where is this going? This is making me upset. Then they get funny as hell. They have me on. They talk about me hearing for the first time about UFOs. Bob Lazar listening to my boombox under my covers. It was 1988, 1989. Don't know. George Knapp comes through as Bob Lazar. I'm like, dude, this is interesting. I'm learning about my own experience. Then they start some episode where I put on some pink shirt and I walk out the door to go to Congress. And there's George Knapp being like, okay, Barbie, time to change. It was fucking hilarious. So I really recommend people go listen to all 5 episodes of this. I don't even know who really made it, but it's called Expanse, and it's season 4 called Uncropped. Check it out, dude. It's really good.
I'm gonna check that out or fall asleep to it sometime soon. All right, I think we've covered enough ground for today, don't you think? We need to revisit our friend the jellyfish pretty soon too.
Okay.
We go into that in the Netflix thing as well, and we hear from somebody who's fairly important in the development of that case, that incident, and we might be talking more about that soon. It seems to have picked up a little steam and momentum on social media of late.
Okay, so we'll talk about jellyfish. We'll talk about all the lies you're being told about jellyfish, and we'll wonder why, and by who, and that whole thing. We'll do that. But I do want to be clear. In your show, I was so careful to protect direct firsthand witnesses, and so are you, that when I watched it, they did what I asked, which is the exact words that everybody heard with audio was there, but they used somebody else's voice. I think that's so important for us to say. We would never endanger a firsthand whistleblower and witness by using their real voice. Could be a male, could be female. You have no idea. But I want to be clear.
The people we work with, you got to know some of them. Jake Lawfer, Rick Sasson, Angus James. They kept their word. They're really talented television producers. The team that traveled with us, I mean, it was a big team. We had maybe 10 people we took to Brazil, and it was even more than that in a couple of Mexico jaunts. But they kept their word. They protected our source. They did as we asked in dealing with the jellyfish.
You don't even know our sources on that, but that one where those were exact words. So Jake, Angus, and Rick, they did what they said. They protected things, and I want to thank them. And they did you right, George. They really showed a beautiful way of what you're doing. So I do have a lot of respect for them now that they've proven it, right? That they've proven they can make a show like that and tell the truth. So yeah, hats off.
Okay. Taking a day off tomorrow, maybe spend time with my wife, get to reintroduce myself to my cats, and you take it easy, and we'll catch up soon.
Hey, man, easy does it with a Grim Reaper and a beer. You know that's what I'm going to do. All right.
Never have so few had so much to tell, but could say so little.